Alright everyone, smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm if you're ready to finally decode what actually goes into that all-important credit score. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into the 5 key factors that determine your credit score. Understanding these can help you take control of your financial future. Seriously, this isn't some black box magic, it's a system, and once you understand the rules of the game, you can start playing it to win. So many people out there are just guessing, or worse, getting bad advice, and it's costing them thousands, even tens of thousands, in higher interest rates over their lifetime. Now I get it, talking about credit scores might not sound like the most exciting thing in the world, but trust me on this one, getting a handle on these 5 pillars is absolutely fundamental. It's the difference between getting approved for that mortgage on your dream home at a great rate, or getting stuck with a high-interest car loan that bleeds your wallet dry. It's about financial freedom and having options. We're going to break down each component, piece by piece, so you know exactly what the lenders are looking at and how you can optimize each area. By the end of this video, my goal is for you to walk away with a crystal clear understanding of how to not just improve your credit score, but to build a rock-solid financial foundation. No more confusion, no more myths. We're going straight to the facts, giving you actionable steps you can start implementing today. Because let's be honest, a good credit score isn't just a number, it's a key that unlocks better financial opportunities. So grab a coffee, get comfortable, and let's get into it. Alright, let's kick things off with the absolute heavyweight champion of credit score factors, your payment history. This one accounts for a massive chunk of your score, typically around 35%. Think about it from a lender's perspective. Before they hand over their money, the very first thing they want to know is this person reliable? Do they pay their bills on time? It's the most straightforward indicator of your financial responsibility. If you consistently pay your debts as agreed, you're signaling to lenders that you're a low-risk borrower. This is non-negotiable. So, what exactly does payment history cover? It's a record of how you've managed your past debts, including credit cards, installment loans like mortgages or auto loans, student loans, and sometimes even things like rent or utility payments if they get reported. Lenders look at whether you've made your payments on time for each account. Even a single late payment can put a dent in your score, and the later the payment, the more significant the damage. A payment that's 30 days late is bad, 60 days late is worse, and 90 days late can be a serious blow. The impact of these late payments isn't just a tiny slap on the wrist either. A single 30-day late payment could potentially drop an excellent credit score by a significant number of points, sometimes even 60 to 100 points, depending on your overall credit profile. Imagine working hard to build up your score only to see it plummet because of one oversight. That's why vigilance here is absolutely key. You need to treat every due date like it's a critical deadline because in the world of credit, it truly is. Now, if you have multiple late payments, or if those late payments turn into more severe delinquencies like charge-offs or accounts going to collections, the negative impact becomes even more pronounced and can linger on your credit report for up to 7 years. That's a long time to be paying for past mistakes, literally, in the form of higher interest rates or denied credit applications. It's like having a shadow follow you around, making every financial move more difficult and more expensive. This is why consistency is your best friend. So, how do you ensure you're always on top of this? The simplest strategy is to set up automatic payments for at least the minimum amount due on all your accounts. This way, even if life gets hectic and you forget, the minimum is covered, and you avoid that dreaded late payment mark. You can always go in and pay more before the due date if you wish, but having that safety net of autopay is invaluable. It's a small step that can save you a world of trouble. Another good habit is to set reminders on your phone or calendar a few days before your due dates. This gives you a little nudge and ensures you're aware of upcoming payments, especially for accounts where you might not have autopay set up, or where the payment amount varies each month. Think of it as a double-check system. The goal is to make it virtually impossible to miss a payment. Treat these due dates with the seriousness they deserve in the financial world. What if you do slip up and miss a payment? The first thing to do is to make the payment as soon as humanly possible. Then, and this is important, contact your creditor. If you have a good history with them, they might be willing to waive the late fee and, in some rare cases, might even agree not to report the late payment to the credit bureaus, especially if it's a one-time mistake. It's not guaranteed, but it's always worth a polite call. Don't just ignore it and hope it goes away. Remember, building a positive payment history is a marathon, not a sprint. Every on-time payment you make acts like a small building block, strengthening your credit profile over time. The longer your track record of consistent on-time payments, the more trustworthy you appear to lenders. This positive information continuously reinforces your reliability and helps to offset any past missteps, should they unfortunately occur. It's about demonstrating a pattern of responsible behavior. The credit bureaus like Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax are the ones keeping score. They collect this payment information from your lenders and compile it into your credit report. This report is then used to calculate your credit score using various scoring models like FICO or VantageScore. So, being diligent about your payments directly influences the data these bureaus have on you, and consequently, the score they generate. It's all interconnected. Think of your payment history as your financial reputation. Just like in your personal or professional life, a good reputation takes time and consistent effort to build, but it can be damaged quickly by a few missteps. Protecting and nurturing this aspect of your credit is paramount. It's the foundation upon which a strong credit score is built, and without a solid foundation, everything else becomes much more challenging to manage effectively. Ultimately, the message here is clear. Prioritize making all your payments on time, every single time. No excuses. This is the single most impactful thing you can do for your credit score. It's not always easy, especially when juggling multiple bills, but the effort you put into maintaining a perfect or near-perfect payment history will pay dividends in the long run through better loan terms, lower interest rates, and greater financial opportunities. It's worth its weight in gold. Next up, let's talk about a factor that's almost as important as payment history, and that's your credit utilization ratio, often called CUR. This typically accounts for about 30% of your credit score. Now, what on earth is credit utilization? Simply put, it's the amount of revolving credit you're currently using compared to the total amount of revolving credit you have available. Think primarily of your credit cards here. It's a measure of how much of your available credit limit you're tapping into. Lenders look at your credit utilization ratio very closely because it can be an indicator of financial distress. If you're maxing out your credit cards or using a very high percentage of your available credit, it signals to them that you might be overextended, potentially relying too much on borrowed money to make ends meet. This makes you look like a riskier borrower. Conversely, keeping your utilization low suggests that you manage your credit responsibly and don't need to lean heavily on it. The general rule of thumb you'll often hear is to keep your credit utilization below 30% of your total credit limit, and also below 30% on each individual card. So, if you have a credit card with a $10,000 limit, you'd ideally want to keep your balance on that card below $3,000. If your total credit limit across all your cards is $30,000, you'd want your total combined balances to be under $9,000. This 30% is a guideline, a good starting point for many. However, and this is a pro tip, lower is almost always better when it comes to credit utilization. People with the highest credit scores often keep their utilization in the single digits, say below 10%. So, on that $10,000 limit card, that would mean keeping the balance below $1,000. This might seem challenging, but it can make a significant difference in optimizing your score. It shows an even greater level of control and financial stability. Calculating your credit utilization is pretty straightforward. You take the total outstanding balances on all your revolving credit accounts, mostly credit cards, and divide that by your total credit limits on those accounts. Then, multiply by 100 to get a percentage. For example, if you have $2,000 in balances across all your cards and your total credit limits add up to $20,000, your utilization would be 2,000, 20,000 asterisk 100 equal sign 10%. That's a fantastic utilization rate. One common mistake people make is thinking that as long as they pay their bill in full by the due date, their utilization doesn't matter. However, most credit card issuers report your balance to the credit bureaus on your statement closing date, which is often a few weeks your payment due date. So, even if you pay in full every month, if your balance is high on that statement closing date, a high utilization could still be reported, negatively impacting your score for that month. To manage this effectively, you can make payments your statement closing date to ensure a lower balance is reported, or you could make multiple small payments throughout the month. The key is to be mindful of what your balance is likely to be around the time your statement closes, not just on the payment due date. This little trick can make a surprising difference for those who use their cards heavily, but pay them off monthly. What if your utilization is currently high? There are two main ways to improve it. The first, and most obvious, is to pay down your outstanding balances. Focus on aggressively paying down the cards with the highest utilization first, or use a strategy like the debt snowball or avalanche method. Reducing the numerator in that CUR calculation, your balances, will directly lower your ratio. This is the most direct and impactful approach. The second way to improve your credit utilization ratio is to increase your total available credit, which is the denominator in the CUR calculation. You can do this by requesting a credit limit increase on your existing cards or, cautiously, by opening a new credit card. However, be careful with opening new credit, as that has its own implications which we'll discuss later. Asking for a limit increase on a card you already manage well is often a good first step. It's important to understand that credit utilization has no memory in most modern scoring models like FICO 8. This means that if your utilization was high last month, negatively affecting your score, you can improve it this month by paying down your balances, and your score can rebound relatively quickly. This makes it one of the fastest ways to see a potential improvement in your credit score, unlike payment history where negative marks can linger for years. So, to recap this crucial factor, aim to keep your credit utilization low, ideally below 30%, but even better if you can get it under 10%. Understand that it's often your statement balance that gets reported, not just your balance on the due date. Actively work to pay down balances and consider strategies to increase your available credit if appropriate. Mastering your credit utilization is a powerful lever you can pull to significantly influence your credit worthiness in a relatively short amount of time. Alright, moving on to our third key factor, the length of your credit history. This one typically accounts for about 15% of your credit score. Essentially, this factor looks at how long you've been responsibly managing credit. Lenders generally like to see a long and well-established credit history because it gives them more data points to assess your long-term financial behavior and reliability. A longer history with positive information is usually better. This factor considers several aspects, including the age of your oldest credit account, the age of your newest credit account, and the average age of all your accounts. The older your average credit age, the more favorable it tends to be for your score. This is why financial advisors often caution against impulsively closing very old credit card accounts, even if you don't use them frequently, as long as they don't have an annual fee. Think of it like a long-term relationship. Someone you've known to be reliable for 10 or 15 years is generally perceived as more trustworthy than someone you've only known for a few months. It's the same principle with credit. A long track record of on-time payments and responsible credit management over many years provides strong evidence that you're a dependable borrower. This is something that simply takes time to build. You can't rush it. So, what does this mean in practical terms? It means that the credit card you opened back in college, even if it has a low limit and no fancy rewards, could actually be quite valuable to your credit score simply because of its age. Closing that account could potentially lower the average age of your accounts and, as a result, might cause a dip in your score. This is a common mistake people make when they're trying to simplify their finances. Of course, if an old card has a hefty annual fee and you're genuinely not getting value from it, you'll need to weigh the cost of the fee against the potential impact on your credit score from closing it. Sometimes, it might make sense to close it, but it's a decision that should be made with careful consideration of your overall credit profile, especially the age of your other accounts. If it's your oldest account by a significant margin, be extra cautious. For younger individuals or those new to credit, this factor can feel a bit frustrating because you simply haven't had the time to build up a long credit history. However, the key is to start building credit responsibly as early as you can. This could be through a student credit card, a secured credit card, or by becoming an authorized user on a family member's well-managed, long-standing credit card, though the benefits of being an authorized user can vary. The important thing is to get that clock started on your credit history. Once you have accounts open, managing them well over the years will naturally lead to an increase in the average age of your accounts. This is a marathon, not a sprint. Don't be discouraged if your credit history is still relatively young. Focus on the factors you can control more immediately, like payment history and credit utilization, while time works its magic on this one. It's also worth noting that length of credit history doesn't just mean having accounts open. It means having accounts that are actively, or at least periodically, used and reported. An account that has been inactive for a very long time might eventually be closed by the issuer due to inactivity, which could then impact your average account age. So, making a small purchase on an old card once every few months and paying it off immediately can be a good strategy to keep it active. This factor interacts with others too. For instance, frequently opening new accounts can lower your average age of credit, which is one reason why it's advised to apply for new credit sparingly. Each new account brings down that average. So, while expanding your credit lines can help with utilization, it can temporarily ding you on the length of credit history and new credit fronts. It's all about finding the right balance for your specific situation. Ultimately, the best approach for optimizing the length of your credit history is to start building credit early. Keep your oldest accounts open and in good standing, especially if they don't have annual fees, and be patient. This isn't a factor you can dramatically change overnight. It's about consistent, responsible credit management over the long haul. Let time be your ally in building a strong credit profile. So, cherish those old, well-managed accounts. They are like seasoned veterans in your credit report, providing stability and depth. Don't be too quick to discard them. And if you're just starting out, focus on establishing good habits now, because the responsible actions you take today will lay the groundwork for a long and healthy credit history in the years to come. This is a long-term play, but a very important one. Alright, let's dive into the fourth factor, which is new credit. This component typically makes up about 10% of your credit score. It might seem like a smaller piece of the pie compared to payment history or utilization, but it can still have a noticeable impact, especially if you're not careful. This factor primarily looks at how recently and how frequently you've been applying for and opening new credit accounts. It's about your recent appetite for new debt. When you apply for most types of credit, like a credit card, a mortgage, or an auto loan, the lender will typically pull your credit report from one or more of the credit bureaus. This is known as a hard inquiry or hard pull, and it can cause a slight temporary dip in your credit score, usually just a few points. One or two hard inquiries here and there are generally not a big deal for most people with established credit. However, if you apply for a lot of new credit in a short period, it can raise a red flag for lenders. It might suggest that you're in financial trouble and are desperately seeking credit, or that you're about to take on a significant amount of new debt that you might struggle to manage. This pattern of behavior, multiple applications in quick succession, can lead to a more significant drop in your credit score. Lenders see this as increased risk. This factor also considers how many new accounts you've recently opened, and the time elapsed since you last opened an account. Opening several new accounts quickly can, as we discussed in the previous chapter, lower the average age of your credit history, which is another way this behavior can negatively impact your score. It's like adding a bunch of rookies to a veteran team. It changes the overall experience level. So, the general advice here is to be strategic and selective about when you apply for new credit. Don't just apply for every credit card offer that lands in your mailbox or pops up online, even if the sign-up bonus is tempting. Only apply for new credit when you genuinely need it or when it strategically makes sense for your financial goals, such as getting a card with better rewards that align with your spending, or refinancing a loan to a lower rate. It's important to distinguish between hard inquiries and soft inquiries. Hard inquiries, as mentioned, occur when a lender checks your credit for a lending decision, and these can affect your score. Soft inquiries, on the other hand, do not impact your credit score. Examples of soft inquiries include checking your own credit report, pre-qualified credit offers from lenders, the ones you get in the mail, or background checks by potential employers, with your permission. When you're rate shopping for certain types of installment loans, like mortgages, auto loans, or student loans, credit scoring models often treat multiple inquiries within a short period, usually 14 to 45 days depending on the scoring model, as a single inquiry. This allows you to shop around for the best interest rates without unduly penalizing your credit score. So, if you're looking for a car loan, try to do all your applications within a couple of weeks. The impact of a hard inquiry on your credit score is usually temporary. The inquiry itself will remain on your credit report for up to 2 years, but its effect on your score typically diminishes over time, often becoming negligible after a few months, especially if you continue to manage your existing credit responsibly. So, don't be terrified of hard inquiries. Just be mindful of their frequency. If you're planning a major credit application like for a mortgage, it's generally a good idea to avoid applying for any other new credit in the months leading up to it. You want your credit profile to be as stable and strong as possible when you're seeking a large loan. Adding new inquiries or new, young accounts right before a mortgage application could potentially complicate things or result in a slightly less favorable interest rate. For those with a thin credit file or a shorter credit history, the impact of new credit applications and inquiries can sometimes be more pronounced. If you don't have a lot of other credit information on your report, each new piece of data, including an inquiry, can carry more weight. This is another reason why building credit gradually and responsibly is so important from the outset. In summary, while pursuing new credit is a normal part of financial life, it's crucial to do so thoughtfully. Space out your applications, only apply for credit you genuinely need or that offers significant benefits, and understand how inquiries work, especially when rate shopping for big-ticket loans. Managing this aspect well helps demonstrate to lenders that you're not overly reliant on new debt and that you approach borrowing with a considered strategy. Last, but certainly not least, let's talk about the fifth key factor: your credit mix. This typically accounts for about 10% of your credit score, similar to the new credit factor. While it's not as heavily weighted as payment history or credit utilization, having a healthy mix of different types of credit can contribute positively to your score, demonstrating that you can responsibly manage various forms of debt. So, what exactly does credit mix refer to? It's the variety of credit products you have in your name. Lenders generally like to see that you can handle both revolving credit and installment loans. Revolving credit accounts are those where you can borrow and repay funds up to a certain credit limit, and the amount you can borrow replenishes as you pay it down. Credit cards and lines of credit are the prime examples. Installment loans, on the other hand, are loans where you borrow a fixed amount of money and repay it in regular fixed installments over a set period. Common examples include mortgages, auto loans, student loans, and personal loans. Having experience with both types of credit products signals to lenders that you're a well-rounded borrower, capable of managing different kinds of financial obligations and repayment structures. Now, this does mean you should go out and open a bunch of different types of accounts just for the sake of having a better credit mix, especially if you don't need them. That could lead to unnecessary debt, hard inquiries, and a lower average age of accounts, potentially doing more harm than good. The benefit from credit mix is more of a subtle enhancement rather than a primary driver of a high score. It's more about how you manage the credit accounts you naturally acquire over time as part of your financial life. For instance, many people will have credit cards, revolving credit, and may eventually take out a student loan, an auto loan, or a mortgage, installment loans, as their life progresses and their needs evolve. Successfully managing these diverse obligations contributes positively to this part of your score. If you only have one type of credit, say only credit cards, your score might not be as high as it could be if you also had a history of responsibly managing an installment loan. However, it's perfectly possible to have an excellent credit score with only credit cards, especially if you excel in the more heavily weighted categories like payment history and credit utilization. Don't stress excessively if your mix isn't super diverse yet. The key takeaway here is that as you responsibly use different types of credit that you genuinely need, it can provide a gentle boost to your score. For example, successfully paying down an auto loan over several years demonstrates your ability to handle a significant installment debt, which is a positive signal. Similarly, managing a mortgage responsibly over the long term is a very strong indicator of creditworthiness. For individuals who are just starting to build credit, they might initially only have a credit card. Over time, as their financial needs grow and they perhaps take out a small installment loan for a specific purpose and manage it well, their credit mix will naturally diversify. It's an organic process for many. There's no need to force it by taking on debt you don't need or can't comfortably manage. Think of it like this: if you're a fantastic sprinter, excelling at, say, credit card management, that's great. But if you can also show you're decent at long-distance running, managing installment loans, it makes you appear as a more versatile and capable athlete in the eyes of the coaches, lenders. It adds another dimension to your financial fitness profile. It's also worth noting that some types of credit are viewed more favorably than others within the mix. For example, a mortgage is often seen as a good type of debt because it's typically an appreciating asset and shows long-term commitment. Multiple payday loans, on the other hand, would likely be viewed negatively, even though they are a type of installment loan because they are often associated with financial distress. So, while striving for a diverse credit mix can be beneficial, it should happen as a natural consequence of your responsible financial management and life needs. Don't open accounts just to check a box. Focus first and foremost on making on-time payments, keeping your credit utilization low, and building a long credit history. If you do those things well, a healthy credit mix will often develop over time. Ultimately, the credit mix factor is about showing lenders you can juggle different financial responsibilities. It's a testament to your financial maturity and adaptability. While it might not be the star player on your credit score team, it's a valuable supporting member that contributes to the overall strength and resilience of your financial profile. Manage the credit you have responsibly, and your mix will take care of itself. So there you have it. The 5 crucial factors that make up your credit score payment history. Credit utilization, length of credit history, new credit mix. Understanding how each of these works is the first and most important step towards taking full control of your financial destiny. It's not about secrets or tricks, it's about consistent, responsible financial behavior over time. Remember, your payment history is king, so always prioritize paying your bills on time. Keep that credit utilization low, ideally under 10% if you can swing it. Nurture your older accounts to let your length of credit history work in your favor, and be strategic and cautious when it comes to applying for new credit. And finally, while you shouldn't force it, a healthy mix of credit types can add a nice polish to your already strong credit profile. These elements all work together, and by paying attention to each one, you can build and maintain an excellent credit score that opens doors to better interest rates, more favorable loan terms, and ultimately, greater financial freedom. Thanks for watching. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more tips on managing your finances. See you next time. Building good credit is a marathon, not a sprint. But with the knowledge you've gained today, you're well equipped to run that race successfully. Drop any questions you have in the comments below. I'll do my best to answer them.